Wow, you'd think something's going on here today. Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Bonin, and I'm president of the St. Cloud Area Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of our chamber, the St. Cloud Rotary Club, and the City of St. Cloud, it is my privilege to welcome you all to the 6th Congressional District Candidate Debate. I want to put out a special thank you to Mayor Kleiss for opening this building up to us today, for Bill Dunsmore on Civic Center staff for taking care of the media and everything around all of the things that have to happen here to make this an event come off like this, and also to Sharon Henry from the chamber staff for all her work on this end. So today we welcome 6th District Congressional incumbent, Congresswoman and Republican candidate Michele Bachmann. Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming.
And businessman and DFL candidate Jim Graves. Welcome, Jim. Okay. The format of this debate will be as follows. I will ask questions of our candidates regarding federal issues of greatest concern to our Central Minnesota Chamber members and business community. And candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to address each question. At the moderator's discretion, that's me, candidates will be allowed rebuttal time of 1 minute to respond to their opponent, and particularly if their names or positions are addressed in the responses. So it'll be question, comment, rebuttal, and possibly another round of rebuttals if we need it. I encourage each of you to be clear and concise in your answers so we can cover as much ground as possible. A beeper will sound at the end of the time, indicating that you should complete your sentence and stop. Our timekeeper this afternoon is Chamber Vice President Gail Ivers, right here. And she'll be signaling you when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time has expired. And this is a large crowd. I strongly encourage the audience to be respectful and considerate of both of these candidates. This is the first time these candidates have come together in a public forum, and we want as much time as possible to hear from them. Please refrain from applause, outbursts, or criticisms. Please keep your signs down so everyone can see and can hear the entire debate. And also, if you have those little stickers that everybody got on their way in, please make sure they stay on your clothing and not on the floor or the furniture of this facility, because we fought long and hard to get this facility and we want to keep it clean. How exciting is it that our 6th Congressional District is one of the most watched political races in our nation? Many people have their eyes and ears right with us right now. So please show them the respect that Central Minnesotans give to all of our candidates who are willing to represent us and serve our interests in public office. So are you ready to begin?
Yes,
Sure am.
Great. And we'll rotate who answers first. So we're going to start with Congresswoman Bachmann. This is the question. St. Cloud is the largest city in the 6th District and the 8th largest city in the state of Minnesota. What do you see as St. Cloud's greatest challenges and opportunities in the next 2 years? And what's your role in affecting either?
Well, I think the greatest challenge for St. Cloud is one that we see even across the district, and it's job creation. That's what I hear everywhere I go when I'm listening and paying attention to manufacturers, to retailers, to whoever it is in this district, or whether it's school districts or municipalities. They're very worried about jobs and job creation. And they want to know that we're going to have thousands of high-paying jobs in this area. They want to know that the economy is going to work. That's what I've been paying attention to. Every year we've surveyed the district, and we've asked the district, what do you want to see us do in Washington, D.C.? What would be most beneficial and helpful to you? And the number one issue has always been, let's get the bridge built over the St. Croix River. And the other item that we've heard is, let's get the airport open in St. Cloud so that we can have regular routes again to cities, because we need that economic development. And then, of course, there's also a call to get the Veterans Clinic built. I paid attention and listened to the people of the district, and I delivered for them and led on those issues. It really has been a pleasure to work with the leadership here in St. Cloud, whether it's with Mayor Kleiss or Bill Towle at the airport, or with Teresa at the Chamber of Commerce, or the various members of the county board. What St. Cloud needs to have is a strong focus on job creation, economic development, but we also have transportation projects as well that we need to get built, and I look forward to talking more about that, hopefully, in the questions.
Thank you. Jim Graves?
Teresa, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. This is a privilege. Thank you, Congresswoman Bachmann. The first and foremost thing, of course, is jobs. But to get those jobs, we need a strong, active voice in Congress representing us. And that's what we've lacked over these past 6 years. When you look at the needs of St. Cloud specifically, their transportation needs that we have here, we need to bring back more than 80 cents on a dollar that we send to the federal government. We have specific things we can do right here on the ground in St. Cloud to create good, livable wage jobs. But we need that infrastructure. We need good education. We need a strong voice in Congress that makes sure that we're getting our fair share. When we send $1 to Congress, we want to get $1 back. And so we need someone that can actually represent and be a voice for the people, that understands business, someone that's created thousands of jobs over the years, understands the value of the middle class, understands that the oxygen that drives this economy, the thing that's going to keep St. Cloud viable and our district viable, are good, well-paying jobs. What we need in this economy right now, first and foremost, is aggregate demand. We need people coming in the doors of our Main Street businesses buying our goods and services. And someone has to understand that. Someone that's been working for 30-plus years in the free markets. Someone that's actually created jobs. Actually understands how to make a payroll. Understands how to get through the most difficult recession this country has ever seen, without, of course, including the Great Depression. So I've been there. I've done it. I know what you need. I'm going to be an active voice. I'm going to be on the ground in the district full-time serving your needs. And I'm going to be in Congress building relationships so that we can get things done. These are not red. These are not blue. These are not Democrat. These are not Republican needs. These are our needs, common needs. We need to bring people together. We need somebody that can create jobs, not headlines.
Thank you. Would you like a rebuttal?
And this is exactly what I have done. I have listened to this district. I've paid attention to this district. And I've led in a leadership capacity that has passed a test, according to the Star Tribune. They called on me to pass the test of passing the bill to build the bridge over the St. Croix River. This was something for decades that people tried to do. And I was able to do something that was really a signature issue and a major accomplishment. I was able to reach across the aisle and bring in our Democrat senators, our Democrat governor, and I had an even bigger hill to climb, and that is 435 members of Congress. That's not only Republicans, but Democrats. I was able to get Nancy Pelosi to even vote for this bill. This is a major achievement. This was a signature issue, and I'm grateful to do it. And it's because I am here. I am one of you. I've been in this district since I was in elementary school. I went to college here. Our family, our children were born here. Our business was from here, too. Women can have businesses, too. And my husband and I started our own successful company. My story is that I am a daughter of a single parent who is below poverty. I drove a school bus to get through college. My husband and I had absolutely nothing. We started our own successful business. We run it at a profit. I get the free market economy. I get job creation. But most importantly, I listen to this district. I'm on the ground. I have good relationships. And I've delivered in a major signature way. And I'm extremely proud of that work that I've done.
Thank you.
Michelle, I built an American in Stillwater. And I built an American in New Richmond, Wisconsin. And there has been a need for a bridge across the Stillwater to Wisconsin for a long time. And I'll give you credit. You did come together. I've heard on the street that Senator Klobuchar did the heavy lifting, but you were there. And be that as it may, you were there. But here's the thing. I'm a fiscal responsible person. I'm a conservative. I think a Chevrolet would have done just fine. I would not have voted for that. I would have not built the Rolls-Royce that's being built over there. We could have built that bridge for a fraction of what it's going to cost. Now, we have taxpayers for common sense. We have a lot of different organizations. I don't think we should be building Rolls-Royces when we can get the job done and serve those people that live in western Wisconsin with a Chevrolet. We have a lot of infrastructure needs in our district. And I would like to see some of those dollars being spent across this district. We have interchanges needed in Noka. We have projects done right here. We'd like to get North Star rail service up to St. Cloud. We have a lot of things we can do. So every time we have a project in Washington that I'm going to be representing you folks out there, we're going to look at every dollar. I want $1.50 back for every dollar we spend. I'm going to be very, very fiscally responsible. So I would have voted against that design. I would have not gone for that Rolls-Royce.
One more round.
Well, this is a very clear distinction between the two of us in running for Congress, because I will tell you, I know the people in this district. We surveyed them regularly. We were on the ground, and the people in this district for decades have wanted to get this bridge built. Even before I went into Congress, our family took a trip at our expense out to Washington. I wanted to find out, why aren't we getting this bridge built? It was tied up in one lawsuit after another. And it needed to get built. And the local people are so extremely grateful that a miracle happened and we finally got it done. And you see, this is the difference between the two of us. I've listened. I've paid attention. And I worked in an absolutely remarkable capacity. This really is amazing. I invited Governor Dayton, please come over to the Stillwater area, listen to what local people are saying. He did, and I give him credit. Governor Dayton listened to the local community and said, I agree with this bridge. I also invited Senator Klobuchar's and Franken. This is something that our community needs. They agreed, yes, it does. It was able to get through the Senate, but again, consider, this was the Bachmann bill to get this bridge built. I had to get full support through the House of Representatives, including Democrats, to be able to come on board with this bill. Again, this has been in process for decades. We've been told that this is the longest unfinished bridge project in the history of the United States. Not only did I get it done and get it on the desk of Barack Obama and get a Democrat president to sign this bill, we also, after it was all done, I was continually on the phone with our local units of government. We had to get through municipal consent. Day and night, no matter if I was in Stillwater, if I was in Washington, I was on the phone calling them saying, what do you need? Do you need to speak with Governor Dayton? What is it that you have to have? This is very complicated, but I got this over the hurdle and I got it done. I'm extremely proud of this project. This was the right thing to do to get it built, because this will bring literally thousands of high-paying jobs in Minnesota to build this bridge, but it's incalculable the economic opportunity and productivity we're going to have because of having this passageway. We have a 2-lane bridge now that is one of the oldest bridge. People joke in Stillwater that it's held together by baler twine. It's unsafe. We saw what happened to the 35W bridge. We never want that to happen again. You've got to build bridges, you've got to build roads, you've got to build interchanges. I'm going to do what this district is asking of me. I listen, I pay attention, I reach across party lines, I work in a bipartisan way, and I prove that in building this bridge. I'm very proud of that work.
Final word?
Michelle, you didn't listen to me very well, and in all deference, I did not say we didn't need a bridge. Those people from western Wisconsin do want to come over to Minnesota. We needed a bridge. I've done business on both sides. But that earmark that you got in there wasn't a bill, it was an earmark, cost over $700 billion, or million, $700 million, excuse me. We built the I-35 bridge for $234 million, okay? So put that in perspective. I-35 serving downtown Minneapolis, 6 lanes, hundreds of thousands of cars a day for $234 million. And now we're going to build a Rolls-Royce bridge to service 10 to 14,000 Wisconsinites coming across the bridge every day for over $700 million. So what I am saying is, yes, indeed, bridge fatigue outside of the district now anyway. I'm not representing that area anyway. But having said that, they needed a bridge. No one questions that. But do we need to spend that kind of money in these kinds of times? These are difficult times. I've been struggling to make payroll these past 4 years. I worked very hard. I want to make sure every dollar I send to Congress, and I send a lot, I get something back in return. This is not the time to be frivolous. This isn't the time to build monuments. This is a time to do the work of the people. So let's go over it one more time. It was an earmark. It's costing twice what it probably would have had to. And it's serving people in western Wisconsin. And we built the I-35W bridge that was very important for a fraction of the cost. Now, those are the facts, and all we do is talk about facts here. And all I'm going to do in Congress is work for you. And I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. I don't care if it's John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, President Romney, or President Obama. I'm going to work to get the work done for you folks out there because that's what you're going to hire me to do. This is basically an interview, just like we interview people all the time in my company. You want to find who has the best skill set to serve you. Now, what skills does Michele Bachmann have? She's got a lot of very wonderful skills. She's passionate. She believes in what she believes in. She's very, very strong-willed. She gets things done. She's a phenomenal fundraiser. Phenomenal. And, you know, she's great at getting headlines. But now on my part, I create jobs. I bring people together. I work at the ground floor. I work on Main Street. I bring bankers. I bring investors. I bring property owners. I bring cities together. All I'm going to do for you for the next 6 years is serve you, work for you.
Can I just answer this?
Yes, and I encourage you all to watch the timekeeper here.
I'll be happy to, and I will be brief. I just want to make it very clear this was not an earmark. The congressional committees as well said this was not an earmark. I got this through the right process, the right way. Not only was it not an earmark, it wasn't a part of a stimulus project. I got this through the hard way, which is passing the bill through the committees, through the House, through the Senate, getting it on the president's desk, and it's signed into law and then put into effect. So I did it the right way. It was not an earmark. Number two, the reason why the cost for this bill escalated, it would have cost $80 million to build the same bridge in 1992. It's because of government red tape. That's why government policies matter. It's because of lawsuits that were filed by radical environmental groups that tied this bridge up into court and eventually added an additional mitigation fee that jacked this bill up. I fought against all of that for 20 years. I began this fight 20 years ago as a young mother living in the community, attending meetings. I'm intimately familiar with this process. The taxpayers were disadvantaged because of the lawsuits filed by radical environmental organizations, and that's adding to the cost of doing business. Business people here know that. And again, women are business owners too. I'm one of them. I meet a payroll as well every 2 weeks, and we weathered the recession as well. I get it, and again, I reached across party lines. I delivered on what this district wanted. This district is getting a common sense 4-lane bridge. We now have a 2-lane bridge, and the traffic that occurred 80 years ago is completely different than the traffic today and the traffic for the future. This is something that the Chamber of Commerce wants. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the United States Chamber of Commerce, and I'm proud to have the endorsement of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, which represents small business. I'm a small business woman, and I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the Farm Bureau. All job creators. Why? Because they recognize I talk to them on a regular basis. They know I listen to them. They want to provide more and high-paying jobs, and I want our government policies to create jobs, not destroy jobs.
Okay. Let's watch our timekeeper, okay? All right, we're going to move on. And, okay, everybody clap if you want to. That's fine. All right. This will, Jim Graves, you'll answer this one first, please. And this has to do with health care reform. The Patient Protection and Affordable Health Care Act, or health care reform, has generated 47 new regulations so far. Two of the most concerning parts of the act to date are the employer mandate regulation, mandating that employers provide health care, and also the minimum coverage requirement, which we aren't quite sure exactly how that's all going to shake out. So what is your assessment of these two regulations, and how will you help businesses understand and comply with them?
Well, first of all, the definition of a full-time employee in the Affordable Care Act has gone from 35 hours per week to 30. Now, that's a problem for a lot of businesses. I mean, that creates a lot of uncertainty for a lot of businesses, small businesses, like the people I work with. And that's a very, very dramatic concern for them. Uncertainty again. There's also other things in that act that create a whole lot of uncertainty. Again, when you have a 900-page act, try to get your arms around it. The whole affordability thing is a big issue as well for employers. We don't know what is affordability. I mean, if you have a family of 5 or if you have 2 people, if you're single, these things have to be defined, and they're not defined in the bill. So there's a lot of problems in that bill. But really the real problem with that bill is that it hasn't really addressed the heavy lifting, and that is actually curbing the cost of health care overall. We have a broken system, and the Affordable Care Act hasn't addressed that. Basically, what we have now is we have a compensation model that's based on procedures, not on outcome. There's no other business in the world that I know, especially in this country, that's based on how many things you do, you get paid for it. I mean, you get paid for outcome. That's what I do in my business. I get paid when I do something, I do it right, then I get paid for it. So we have to change that whole outcome versus procedure basis. We need to really approach the cost. And the way to do that is we have to build in transparency, we have to build in prevention, and we have to implement free market principles. An example would be this. You go into the doctor today and you want LASIK surgery. 10 years ago, LASIK surgery cost about twice what it does today. And the outcomes today are a lot better. So you ask, how can that be? That's health care. Well, I'll tell you how it is. It happens because, A, when you go in to get LASIK surgery, your insurance company doesn't pay for it. You pay for it out of your pocket. And when you pay for something out of your pocket, you care what it costs. And you care how good the outcomes are. So you start doing research on your doctor, and you find out whether he or she is good or not. And then what you do is you make sure that those outcomes are good and that they're priced appropriately. And that has brought down the cost of LASIK surgery. And that's an example of what we have to do across the board with health care. And the Affordable Care Act has not done that. It hasn't approached the real heavy lifting, which is the cost curve.
Okay. Thank you. Congresswoman Bachmann.
Well, in Congress, I worked very hard against the passage of the Affordable Care Act that is commonly known as Obamacare. I paid attention. I listened to employers in this area. I spoke to them ahead of time. We tried to understand this bill as much as we could before it was passed. It was actually well over 2,000 pages, filled with one mandate after another. There are well over 20 taxes, new taxes in Obamacare. It creates 159 boards and commissions. What Obamacare really creates is a brand new government bureaucracy, and it's enforced by the IRS. Now imagine that with health care. The IRS is going to be enforcing. It creates now 16,000 new IRS agents that will not only have access to employers' tax records and individuals' tax records, but also our medical information as well. Does anyone really think that the government will keep our private, intimate, personal information in our medical records private as well? The Chamber of Commerce said this is the #1 reason why employers aren't hiring. I can bear that out. In employer after employer that I've talked to here in St. Cloud and across the district, they roll their eyes. They're upset. They know exactly what this is going to mean for them. In fact, I'll give you one example. I was at a Denny's restaurant, and there's a 17-year-old girl that came in. It was during the summer. And she said, I'd like to apply for my first job. And I was talking to the owner of this restaurant, and he said, well, I'm sorry, dear, we are not hiring this summer. Because he said, we've got to get down under the number of employees that we have to have, because I can't afford, he said, as an employer, to be under the requirements of Obamacare. And I've seen this with employer after employer who's local, that they don't want to have too many employees. Why would you want a government policy that's going to hurt jobs? Again, the Chamber of Commerce estimates that Obamacare will cost 800,000 jobs that will be lost. Again, this is a clear level of distinction between myself and Jim Graves. We have a very different view when it comes to Obamacare. I saw ahead of time how negatively this bill would impact our economy, how it would kill jobs. That's why I fought against it, and that's why I embrace free markets in health care.
Thank you. 1 minute.
I'd like to remind Michelle that I wasn't in Congress when this bill passed. That's #1. Okay. How much impact did you have on that bill is what I would ask myself if I was in Congress. I would hold myself accountable to you after you elect me. and you hold me accountable, okay, I better have an effect on what happens in Congress. That's number one. Number two, health care is a major, major problem. No question about it. We talked about it. We've got to bend the cost curve. It's the elephant in the room. But I wasn't in Congress. I didn't vote for the bill. I've said all along that the heavy lifting hasn't been done. And more importantly, I'd like to say one more thing. The reason why businesses are not hiring people, the number one reason is they don't need people because there isn't business coming in the door. When I ask a businessman, how's business, or I ask a businesswoman, how's business, they answer, hey, it was pretty good last weekend. We had a lot of sales. That's what it's about. We got a lot of business people in here. We know what business is all about. And we do need to get government out of the way. We need to make sure that we can do our business. I'm a business guy. I've created hundreds of businesses. That's all I do. So you're kind of preaching to the choir and someone that wasn't in the choir at the time.
Well, we have voting records. I've been in Congress, and people know what I have done for my work to be against the passage of the president, which is 1/6 of the economy is now under the control of the federal government. That's health care. It comes at a very high cost. All we know is what candidates say about what they do support and what they will campaign on. And Jim was on television on a liberal TV channel speaking with Ed Schultz, and he was asked, would you campaign in favor of Obamacare, and do you support Obamacare? And he said he did. I knew before Obamacare passed that this would be a job killer, and it is. How do I know? I pay attention. I'm here almost every weekend talking to people on the street, in the district, asking them, what do you think about this bill? How is this going to impact you? And the Chamber of Commerce has said repeatedly, and I hear it repeatedly from small and large and medium business owners, that this is going to kill my company. It's going to kill my profitability, and it has. And so there is a very strong, distinct difference between us, because I embrace policies that will create jobs. I take a high view of our economy. I don't embrace policies that won't. It's interesting. I opposed Obamacare before the bill was passed because I could see how it would negatively impact. And it's interesting because Jim, during the course of this campaign, this year, after the bill was passed, after we already see the new taxes and the new regulations, and also the fact that it's caused insurance premiums to go up on average $2,200 more a year than they were before its passage, after all that happened, he said yes, he would support this bill, and he said he would campaign on it. So you can't have it two ways. The question is, are you going to say one thing on liberal TV and another thing when you're here in St. Cloud? I think you've got to be consistent.
Michelle, I really appreciate that. I appreciate your comment. Now, you've spent over $10 million campaigning on paid media about me. And that Ed Schultz interview was kind of interesting, the way you snapped me off. I said there are some good things in the Affordable Care Act, and then I'm off. But the remainder of that sentence was, but the heavy lifting hasn't even begun. We haven't even started addressing the issue of cost. That only addressed a number of few things that most people in this room will agree with. We don't want little kids being held out of being able to have health care and access. We call that pre-existing condition. We don't want families, and I've talked to a lot of them, have lost their homes because their maximum that they're allowed under their policy is exhausted. We don't want kids that are going to college till they're 26 nowadays. It takes a long time to get through school and get organized, that they can stay now on their family plan. Those are the three things I said, and we kind of like this transparency that's being presented with the insurance exchanges. And then I went into the rest of it, but really the heavy lifting and the work is yet to be done. So you cut me off, so you can have your opinions, but you can't have your facts on this one, okay?
Well, when you're a member of Congress, you cast a vote. You cast a vote that you're either for a bill or you're against a bill. And this is a labyrinth of rules, regulations, taxes. We haven't even begun to be impacted fully by the full negative consequences of what Obamacare is going to mean to this nation. I could see that ahead of time by reading different portions of the bill. And again, by being in the district, talking to the people in the district, they did not want this bill passed. And again, you have to know that before you cast the vote. It's not good enough to say that, well, I support the bill, but later we're going to change it. The point is, you vote against those monstrosity bills in the first place. This is a nightmare of a bill for employers. This is a nightmare of a bill for people who have to be in compliance. And I'm afraid for all of the people that are going to lose their employer-sponsored health care now, it is tens of millions of people by government estimates that are going to be losing their employer-sponsored health insurance. Then people have to go into the private market and buy their health insurance with after-tax income. I'm a free marketer. I'm a small businesswoman. I want people's lives to be better and health care to be better and cheaper. And Obamacare has only made it more expensive. You have to know that when you go in and vote as a member of Congress. You've stated that you support the bill. I stated that I'm against it. Again, a very clear line of distinction between the two of us.
Can I say one thing?
Very short.
I'm just going to say something very carefully here. Michelle, could you read my lips, please? I said there are some good things in the bill, but the heavy lifting hasn't begun. In 1970, when I was a high school senior across the street, about four blocks from here, healthcare cost about 7% of our GDP. Today, it's pushing 18%. We're on the wrong trajectory. We need to change this, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything at all what you're saying, and that's okay. You can keep telling people.
Do you want me to say one
Yes.
thing?
Sure.
Well, the reason why healthcare costs have escalated is because government is more involved in healthcare than it's ever been before. The more you have government involved in paying for healthcare and running healthcare, the more expensive it becomes. And so what I want is to see healthcare more affordable, not less affordable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to move on now, and I would appreciate commentary from the audience, please, to be minimized. What are your top 3 priorities for comprehensive tax reform? Michelle.
Well, I'm a former federal United States tax attorney. That's what I did, was federal tax law. I spent years in the United States federal tax court. I saw how devastating high taxes were on small businesses, large businesses, on individuals, on families, and on farmers. And I don't want to see us have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. If you want to know why jobs are leaving the United States, look no further than the very broken United States federal tax code. Again, we're the highest corporate tax rate in the world. We're 35%. Canada's corporate tax rate is 15%. We just had Minnesota Manufacturing Week last week. I spent a lot of time with a lot of manufacturers. One manufacturer had told me that he was looking at investing literally millions of dollars in equipment. And he told me that he could buy that equipment and he could keep it here or he could move it to Canada. I heard that as well last summer when I was talking to other manufacturers. Because you see, taxes are a cost of doing business. And so when taxes are too high, you have to have taxes. That's how we run government. No one is opposed to them. You have to have them. But they need to be fair. They need to be fair to all, and they need to be flatter so that all of us can be in a position to be able to meet the tax burden we have. But the problem is, when you have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, that hurts everyone. Here in Minnesota, and particularly under Obamacare, we have a new tax on medical devices. It's 2.3%. For the small medical device manufacturers in Minnesota, for some of them, that's their entire profit margin. They go out of business when this goes into play. We have 47,000 high-paying jobs directly in the medical device industry. In fact, this will cost Medtronic every year $125 to $175 million because of this new tax. Taxes kill jobs if they're done wrong. And that's why we have to pay very careful attention to the tax code. I want to create jobs, not kill them. And the new taxes in Obamacare are killing jobs as well as our current tax rate for job creators.
Thank you. Your three tax priorities.
Oh, okay, Teresa, let me start. The high watermark first is we need a comprehensive macro approach to the taxes and to the budget. Okay, that's number one. Enough of the knee-jerk, enough of the sound bites, enough of all that kind of thing. And I've always said I would embrace the basic concepts in Simpson-Bowles, which are very straightforward. Let's level the playing field. Let's lower taxes, but let's treat income as income. Let's get rid of what we call tax expenditures, which are tax loopholes. At a corporate level, let's get rid of them completely, but let's lower that corporate tax down. But let's get rid of them. When I'm talking about loopholes and tax expenditures, I'm talking about, like, do you know that if you're in the coal business and you sell coal, they call them coal royalties, you pay a 15% tax rate. That's a capital gains rate, a long-term capital gains rate. If you're a hedge fund operator, you get what we call carried interest. That means you pay 15%. If you're a hedge funder making millions and millions of dollars a year, where you, the working people, have to pay 34%. Or let's talk about other kinds of things. Why is dividends taxed? We call them qualified dividends. Why are they taxed at a much lower rate than your and my income and our taxes? So what we need to do is level the playing field. Get rid of a lot of these tax expenditures, the tax loopholes. Get rid of them. We don't need them. Let's level the playing field. Income is income. Let's treat it appropriately. We want to be fair. We want to be reasonable. We want everybody to be treated equally. Okay, that's number one. Number two, let's really take a look at the overall picture. Let's not do like the Obama administration has done and do little pieces here and little pieces there. He talks about the Buffett rule. Well, first of all, I don't like class warfare. I don't believe in it. I believe that we're in this together. We have a deficit. We have a budget problem. We're all in this together. So let's try to find a solution and let's not point fingers. Let's try to, again, get a macro approach. We need to come together and get a one-time deal. We can't do like the Ryan bill budget that Michele has voted for, where we say we're going to lower taxes by 20%. And by the way, we're going to pay for that down the road somewhere. Well, we know how Washington works, don't we? I mean, there's a lot of people paying a lot of people to vote their way. Okay, so we need I guess I'm out of time here, but we need a macro approach, and we need to level the playing field, and we need to talk straight, and we need to get rid of the class warfare stuff, and we just got to say we're in this together, and we need a balanced budget, or we're in big trouble.
Okay. I'm going to move on to another topic.
Can I just respond?
Sure.
To a couple
One
things?
minute.
One thing I want to say on taxing investment income at the income tax rate. We're talking about a lot of senior citizens that are on fixed incomes. They've already been taxed once on the income at the income tax rate. They take that money and they invest it. And then they have income that come from the dividends. There's a lot of retired teachers, retired policemen, retired firefighters who are living off of their mutual funds and the dividends that come. They've already paid tax on it once. And that's investment income. When you invest, you don't necessarily get a return on that investment. So it's foolish to raise that rate up to the income tax rate. And again, under President Obama, he's going to take our top tax rate from 35% on income up to 39% and then add on Minnesota tax on top of that. We're literally taxing our senior citizens out of their homes. I won't do that. As far as the Simpson-Bowles plan goes, Simpson-Bowles is looking at adding $1.8 trillion in new taxes. What we paid this last year in taxes was about $2.5 trillion. Should we pay another $1.8 trillion per year on top of that? With Jim Graves, add about 50% to your tax bill. That's about what you'd be looking at. I think we're taxed enough already. I don't want to increase taxes. And I think that's a very clear line of distinction. I don't want to increase people's taxes.
I'll give you one more minute.
Okay,
please keep your
Michele,
comments down.
These are complicated issues, and I don't appreciate trying to confuse the people out there, okay? Let's talk about dividends for once, okay? Now, what you're talking about, they pay taxes once. Okay, I happen to have dividends. I happen to have capital investments. Okay, so when you pay for something and you buy something, and then you sell it down the road, that core asset, let's say it's a stock or a bond, of course, that's what you get the capital gains on. We're talking about the dividends. That's income, new income. You haven't taken it back yet. Income is income. We have to be straightforward here. We can't complicate the issue. We have to make sure that people don't get confused. Dividends are different than actually selling the stocks and the bonds. That would be the capital gains. That's okay. We're talking about dividend income. So I just want to clarify that. And then you can go on all the other stuff. It's a bunch of malarkey.
Investment income is very different from income. Again, I spent my life in the United States Federal Tax Court. I have a doctorate and a postdoctorate degree in United States federal tax law, and I started my own successful company. I run that company, and I sit on the financial services industry. Our tax code, I think everyone would agree, is broken, and it's a mess, and it's my firm conviction we are taxed enough already. We don't need to increase our taxes, and that's what Simpson-Bowles would do.
Okay. We are going to move on now. Okay.
Yeah, I would really love to answer that.
All right, all right.
She got 2
I know
okay.
she did. You get one
well,
more.
Let me do
and
something
then we're
real.
Moving on.
Let me try to make this real simple. Take a pie. Everybody, think about a pie. That's our annual budget. Now, take about 60% of that. That's what we call undiscretionary. You can't do anything about that. And then we take our discretionary side, which let's just say it's about half the pie, okay? And then about 60% of that is our defense budget. So now we're down to about 20%, what we call discretionary expenditures. Okay. Now we're running a $1.4 trillion deficit. If we cut out all of our discretionary activity, just get rid of all those things we do on that side, we still have a deficit of $750 billion. So if you're telling me that we have enough income and we're just fine, and you want to go off a fiscal cliff, that's your prerogative. But I love this country, and I want this country to get straight. And we got a $16 trillion deficit, and we can't do any more sound bites. We've got to start talking serious, and that's what Simpson-Bowles does. It ain't going to be easy because we've had a lot of fun. But we're all going to have to chip in now and pay our due.
Teresa, can I answer that? There's a difference between policies that add to the debt, and we have a tremendous...
Please keep it down. When they keep calling each other out, they deserve an opportunity to confront that expression. So go ahead.
There are policies that add to the debt, and there are policies that don't. And that's why I worked very hard to not see the passage of the President's health care plan, because that adds $1.7 trillion to the debt. These policies have consequences. The Dodd-Frank bill also adds every year to this economy and a burden of 11 million uncompensated man-hours. That's what private businesses have to assume that expense for. Also, the stimulus. That was $1 trillion in unfunded spending that this government embraced, and that didn't bring down unemployment to the level that we were promised. The $700 billion bailout, that didn't come without consequences. There's tens of billions that we'll never see again. And then, of course, the tax increases that go along with that. I oppose those policies. Why? Because I'm here. Because I listened, because I paid attention to my district, because it would kill jobs. I have a very high view of this economy. I want pro-growth policies. Those will kill the economy, and I want pro-growth policies.
Okay, we're going to move on, and Jim has agreed to move on at this point, so we will have other opportunity to discuss this. I want to move on to something less controversial, and that's entitlements. 2 years... 2 years ago, before the 6th District debate, I explored the website usdebtclock.org. Very interesting place to go. I went back this year, and here's what's changed in our unfunded liabilities since 2010. Social Security liability. It was $14.6 trillion, now it's $16. Prescription drug liability. It was $19.3 trillion, now it's $21. Medicare liability was $76.99 trillion, now it's $84. Total unfunded liabilities were almost $111 trillion in 2010, and now they're $121 trillion. So it's grown by $10 trillion in 2 years. It's pretty scary. This unfunded liability is money the U.S. government has promised and continues to promise to pay to people, but we don't have the funds to do it. It's clear that the U.S. government entitlement programs are in severe jeopardy, yet very few politicians show the fortitude or willingness to tackle the problem. So how will you specifically address this issue if you are the one going back to Congress? And Jim, you're first on this.
Well, thank you. First of all, let's take the easy one. Let's take Social Security. There are basically two things we can do. We could extend the retirement age from 65 upwards. But that's really difficult if you've been laying bricks your whole life, or you've been carrying heavy bags, or you've been doing a lot of things. Your body's tired. And by gosh, it's pretty tough to make a person 65, 66, 67 years old continue working. So why don't we do it the common sense way? We have what we call a cap now, that when you make the first $110,000, you contribute to Social Security. Let's get rid of that cap. Let's just take care of it that way. It's fair. It's reasonable. Most of you in this room, you pay 100% of your salary is attributable to that. So why don't we just get rid of that and let's all be in the same playing field, and we can do it the way we do it now. So that can take care of Social Security. It's a good way to do it. It's a fair way to do it, and it's doable. Now, when you get into the other one, which is going to be much more difficult, is Medicare. Medicare, as we all know, we're all getting older, at least I am. And we're all going to have higher medical bills as we get older. So we know that the cost curve for the actual procedures have got to come down if we're going to hold that at bay. But unlike a lot of my Democratic friends, I'm going to put everything on the table. You know, when I started this campaign, I said my only pledge is not to make a pledge, but to serve the people and to do what's right. And if we need a means test our Medicare, we have to means test it. If we have to look at bringing down the cost, that's a real thing we've got to do. We've got to do that. Now, again, in 1970, when I was a kid over at St. Cloud Cathedral High School, we were spending about 7% of our GDP on health care. Now we're doing 18%. The rest of the world gets it done for a whole lot less than we do. So we have to do two things. We've got to bring the cost down, the cost curve, and we're going to have to look at bringing a little bit more revenue and or cutting some people off with means testing. Just what we got to do. This is a real world we live in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michele?
This is the moral issue of our time, because it's absolutely immoral to stick our children with the bill that for all of the spending that previous generations have done. We've never seen this before in the history of the United States, where one generation has been consuming not only all that the previous generations have built up with us and consuming what we currently are producing, but we're now reaching into the future and we're consuming what the generations unborn have yet to produce. It's a moral issue, and we can't go down that road. To say that we're going to lift the cap on taxing people at the current level on Social Security earnings would mean the largest tax increase in American history. And it would be one of the biggest drivers for killing job creation that we have in the United States, because a lot of the money is run through businesses that are called LLCs or called sub-S partnerships. And while that may seem like a lot of money, $110,000, that goes through a small business. And so we would be taxing those small business job creators at a much higher rate than we've ever taxed them before, and that would kill literally millions of jobs across the United States. I would not advocate for that. And Medicare, not this summer, but the summer before, I was in the East Room of the White House with the President, and we asked the President of the United States, what is your plan to save Medicare? Because we all know the hospital portion of the trust fund will be dead flat broke in something like 8 years from now. We can't leave seniors without an option. I want to save Social Security. I want to save Medicare. The President, we asked him not once but 3 times, what's your plan? And he didn't answer us the first 2 times. The third time, this is what the President's answer was: Obamacare. And I think that's why you see that the President took $716 billion out of Medicare. When Medicare needs that money more than ever, that money is now being taken out and put into Obamacare. We need this money in Medicare. When I talk to seniors here, when I go to long-term care facilities here in St. Cloud and across the district, when I'm down in Waconia at the hospital or long-term facilities, seniors don't want Obamacare. Why? Because they recognize it could be denial of care rather than full access to care. What we have to do is have full reform. We need to bring about free market reform. Because the problem in healthcare is that we don't have too much government. The problem is that we do have too much government. And what we need to do is get government out of that equation and bring free market and choices back to seniors. Rather than some bureaucrat telling seniors what they're going to have, we need to let seniors make the decision about what they want to have.
And you have a rebuttal.
Wow,
to that.
Teresa, you just heard some political speak there, huh? I mean, again, Michele doesn't say what she's for. She says what she's against. Now, we asked, how are we going to solve this? I didn't hear one thing, except you probably agreed with the president. You don't like to be for anything. Here's the deal, Michele. If you own a company, and I've talked to hundreds of companies, and I've even gone to the Secretary of State's office and looked at this, companies that are formed on Main Street, which are up and down St. Cloud, Anoka, all of our Buffalo, Monticello, they're either LLCs, which are called limited liability corporations, or they're S-corps. And what we do in those companies, and that's all the companies I've formed, you don't pay taxes at that level. Those companies don't pay taxes. The individuals that own them pay. It's a pass-through. So the companies aren't paying taxes anyway. Now, if you're going to say seriously that you don't want to do anything about solving Social Security, that's fine. That's what you just said. You're not going to do anything. Okay. And I'm saying that if I'm fortunate enough to make more than $110,000 a year, and most of us in this room would be happy to do that, we might have to pay a little bit more in, but then we'll get more benefit back, just like we do now. If you pay more into Social Security, you know that. You get more back. It's a progressive system. Now, that's going to solve the problem. I didn't hear one solution in all that political talk that Michele talked about. I didn't hear one thing. How are you going to solve Social Security, and how are you going to solve Medicare? Just answer that. How are you going to do it? I told you what I'm going to do. What are you going to do?
Well, your answer has been that you're going to
what are you going to do, Michele?
I'm answering.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Your answer has been that you are going to dramatically increase taxes on people that have an income over $110,000. And again, what we're talking about are the small business job creators. You can do that, but you can do it at the cost of killing millions of jobs. I don't believe that what this economy needs is millions less in jobs. We need millions more in jobs. We do have a very real issue with Social Security to make sure it lasts into the future. That's why this is a very solvable problem. What we need to do is make sure that people who are 55 years of age or older continue the same benefits they have. Why? Because it's very hard for them to replan their senior security level. And so we want to make sure that they have the same benefits. For people who are 55 years and younger, Teresa gave us the statistics. It's not sustainable. It will never work. So we have to reform the system for those who are 55 years and younger, and whether that's changing age variables, there's another number of variables that we can put in. That's what we have to look at. But it's the same with Medicare. We can't change Medicare, I don't believe, for those who are 55 years and older, but for those who are younger than 55, we need to change the system. And let's change the way so that government isn't making every decision and controlling the decision. We want to put money into seniors' hands so that they can make the decision. And then you have real competition. Today we don't have competition in the system. That's what we need. And I want to embrace free market, whether it is dealing with retirement income or health care.
Can I do one thing? You're not on. You're not. I just want to say one thing. She didn't answer the question again. That's fine. She's not going to. You're not going to. But I do want to be straightforward with everybody in the crowd and everybody that's listening to this, okay? You only pay into Social Security on income. You know? You only pay if you make more than $110,000. Now, if you're in this room and you say, I don't want to make $150,000 a year because I might have to pay another $1,500 for that next $50,000, I don't want to do that. That's your choice. But at the end of the day, we've got to face the problem. You can't political speak around it. You have to talk to the people honestly. We have a problem. We all are going to be in this together. You know, I taught my sixth graders when I taught school, by the way, I was a school teacher. I taught them two things. I said there's no free lunch. This is 37 years ago. I said there's no free lunch, and you're going to pay for everything you get in life, and you got to work hard. And that's what we got to do now. We can't do the political speak any longer. It's not going to work. We're going off a fiscal cliff. We need people in Congress that will represent you honestly, with integrity and candor.
Teresa, can I just answer this?
Yes, but you get 30 seconds.
I do have a very significant investment in the future. My husband and I have been blessed with 5 wonderful children, and we've been privileged to raise 23 foster children in our home. That's what I think about is the future and this very moral problem that we have of sticking the bill. And we do have plans. We do have solutions for this. What we need to do is sit down and address it. I was the one member of Congress last summer when Congress wanted to continue to roll up the debt and add $1.5 trillion to the credit card. I was the one member of Congress who said, no, I won't let Congress have any more money. Because does anyone honestly believe Jim Graves is willing to raise taxes on people all across the United States? Does anyone really believe that if Congress gets more money, that they're going to not spend it? I know what they do. They spend that money. And so what we need to do is cut back on the spending and not continue to give Congress more money that they're not going to be dealing with in a way that's going to benefit not only our seniors, but also children. We need reform. I was the one member of Congress who said, you reform Social Security today. You reform Medicare and Medicaid today because this is a moral issue. We can't go down the path that we're in. So yes, I've very much been a part of the solution, and it's insulting to say that these are political speech, because that's one thing I do not do, is political speech.
I want to we're going to switch gears, because I think we need to move on. We're running very short of time. So I'm going to ask 2 questions, 30 seconds each, all right? And stay clean here, because there's no rebut on these. 30 seconds each. First of all, and Michele, you'll answer this one first. Do you support or oppose the President's decision to deny the permit to build the Keystone XL pipeline, and why? 30 seconds.
The President made a big mistake in not supporting building the Keystone pipeline. That would have directly created 20,000 jobs. It would have brought 800,000 barrels of oil into the United States from the tar sands in Canada, and it would have created hundreds of thousands of jobs once we would have gotten that in. This is the low-hanging fruit of high-paying job creation in the United States. The energy industry, the good news is we are the #1 nation in the world with energy resources. We need to grow this, and it's a great part of our economy.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, I think we should build that. I think we've got to be very careful with our environment. But it's not going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Let's quit fooling around with this. The people that are building it said it's going to create 5,000 jobs once it's built. So let's move on. We do need to increase oil supply and whatever, but most importantly, we've got to get off it. We've got to find other alternative sources of energy. And that's what I'm working on personally right now as we speak.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one more quick round. Jim, you'll answer this one first. Do you support or oppose, this is a very important piece of the overall chamber agenda, the Employee Free Choice Act, card check, which we think may come up again. It's the current administration's efforts to change union organizing rules to require employees to make decisions about forming a union in public and in front of union organizers. So would you support or oppose the Employee Free Choice Act?
I believe that the employee should have the advantage. We need to create good, livable wage jobs. So I'm on the side of labor.
Okay.
And
just to be clear, labor is supporting the Free Choice Act. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You would
yes,
support
I agree.
the Free
Yes,
Choice
yes.
Act. Right.
This is another issue where there's a very clear difference between Jim Graves and myself. I voted against the employee free, say it again.
Employee Free Choice Act.
The act, because it takes away the right of the secret ballot for the employee. I think employees deserve to have secret ballots when they're voting on whether or not they want to have labor representation. And so I voted against it, and I will continue to oppose the act.
Great. And I'm going to give you both 2 minutes on this last question. This is my favorite question. And we will start with Michele on this. Do you feel there have been any claims or advertisements this campaign season that have misrepresented you or your policies? And each of you has 2 minutes to explain something that's really bugged you this campaign season and to set the record straight.
No, I absolutely do. I think that that people need to know that in this district that I have been focused. I'm here. I am a part of this district. I've been here for 44 years. I have paid attention, and I've delivered for this district. I know what the pulse is of this district because I'm here nearly every weekend. I talk to people from all walks of life, people who are employed, people who are unemployed. I was raised by a mom who was a single parent. We were below poverty, and as I said, I drove a school bus to get myself through school. And I didn't forget kids that come out of challenging circumstances after my husband and I created our own successful business and have provided jobs for people here in Minnesota. We continue to reach out to kids in challenging circumstances. I want a booming American economy. I want thousands of high-paying jobs. I want this to be the best place to create and start a business and have high-paying jobs. That's why I delivered. That's why I've demonstrated that I can work across the aisle in a bipartisan way and create the number one interest that people in this district wanted, and that's building a bridge. I did that. I led that effort. And I listened to veterans and got a much-needed health clinic built for our veterans. And I listened. I paid attention. And I helped here with the St. Cloud Airport. And we're not done. We want to continue to open up those routes and those facilities. I'm all about building up this district. Again, I have a very high view of American exceptionalism. I believe we are the greatest nation on earth in the history of mankind. I think we're the greatest nation. We have the best values. And these are values that transcend political parties. The value of American exceptionalism and our greatness takes a kid who is from a single mom in poverty and allows them to succeed. That's what I want for everyone in this district. That's what I've paid attention to. That's why I've delivered. That's what I want to continue to do in the United States Congress.
Thank you. Jim.
Teresa, thank you again for having me here. I appreciate this very much. I grew up in St. Cloud. I was one of 6 kids. I went to Catholic grade school. I paid my own way through Cathedral High School with odd jobs and working weekends. Then I came over to St. Cloud State University, and I actually cleaned a theater that used to stand right here. It was called the Hayes Theater. 365 days a year, I'd get up at 5:30 and clean this theater, the bathrooms, the toilets. And then I'd look across the street, and there was an old Grand Hotel across the street. And never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd own that property and build a new hotel there. Never did I think so. I was just a school teacher. Okay, going to go be a school teacher. So I believe in the American dream. I believe that if we give people opportunities, they can make it happen. And I'm not a big spender. You know, you've seen a lot of ads about big spending Jim, okay? I wasn't in Congress. I've never been in Congress. So I didn't pass any of those bills. 2, you don't get through the worst recession this country's ever seen by being a spendthrift. You don't get through this making payroll every 2 weeks to hundreds and hundreds of hardworking people and payments to the bankers and payments to all your suppliers by being a spendthrift and by being a big spender. You do it by walking the talk, working hard. And you don't build this economy here in the 6th District by talking. You do it by doing. And right now, Verso plant in Sartell is shut down. And they have a request for proposals going out, and people are going to bid that to buy that property and tear that facility down. And I'm working diligently these last 6 weeks to try to find another way to use that facility. And I've got people from around the country right across the street at the hotel right now trying to put together a biomass, a fiber-based business. And that's what you do in Congress. You bring people together. You build this economy. You work for the people. And then when you get done working for the people, you go back to what you used to do. Be with your grandkids. Do things. This is a servant. This is stewardship. This is giving back. This isn't to help yourself. This isn't to make yourself popular or a big media star. This is to serve the people's needs, and that's what I'm going to do. I understand business, I understand balancing budgets, I understand payroll, and I understand what the people need in the district, and I'm going to be here for you the next 6 years. I'm going to work very, very hard.
I want to thank our participants in the St. Cloud Rotary Club, the City of St. Cloud, Mayor Kleiss, and everyone who came today for participating in the 6th Congressional Candidates Debate. Be sure to vote next week. I want to let you know that this will be rebroadcast at 2:30 to 3:30 on KNSI AM 1450 and FM 103.3. That's 2:30 to 3:30. And the candidates will be joining the host, Dan the Ox Oxner, on the show as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for coming.
You.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Of course. Teresa, thank you.